The government promised us billions. FIFA promised us a tourism boom, hotels packed, restaurants overflowing, a once-in-a-generation economic windfall from just Canada. And the World Cup just wrapped. So let's look at what actually happened. Hotel occupancy in Toronto during the first week of the tournament was 72%, down from 88% the same week last year. Bar and restaurant spending up just 3%. Something doesn't add up, does it? And today, we're going to figure out exactly what happened. Welcome to KP Money Talks, and let's break this down. To understand what happened, you have to start with what we were told. FIFA's own economic assessment, prepared by Deloitte Canada, projected that preparing for and hosting the 2026 World Cup would contribute up to $3.8 billion in positive economic output for Canada. That's a number that was repeated in press releases, government announcements, and news headlines for years. BMO Capital Markets went even further, projecting up to $6.5 billion in incremental quarterly GDP for Canada from the tournament. Tourism alone, they said, could add between $1 to $5 billion. Vancouver's mayor called it a once-in-a-generation opportunity to generate immediate economic benefits. Politicians, FIFA officials, and economic forecasters were all singing from same hymn sheet. Host the FIFA World Cup in Canada would see a massive economic payoff. See what I mean? Canadian governments, federal, provincial, and municipal, collectively spent just over $1.1 billion to make it happen. Roughly $380 million in Toronto and $700 million in Vancouver. So, did the $1.1 billion investment deliver the multi-billion-dollar return they promised? That's the question. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the actual data tells a much more complicated story. Moneris, the company that processes 1 in 3 credit and debit card transactions in Canada, tracked the spendings in Toronto from June 12th to June 26th, the first 2 weeks of the tournament. Their findings? Well, total spending at bars and restaurants up just 3% compared to the same period last year. Hotel occupancy for the first full week, 72%, lower than the same week in 2023 and 2024. Spending on apparel actually declined by 5%. And here's a stat that should make every Canadian ask some serious questions. Taylor Swift's 6 Eras Tour shows in Toronto in 2024 generated a bigger economic bump than the first 2 weeks of the World Cup. Vancouver fared somewhat better. Restaurants and bars saw a 5 to 10% increase, and the FIFA Fan Festival drew over 330,000 people to Granville Street. But even there, businesses away from the official fan zone said the promised surge simply never materialized. Sports economist Mosh Lander from Concordia University didn't mince words. The net contribution from hosting large-scale events like the Olympics or the World Cup is pretty close to zero. So, what went wrong? Here's what most people don't understand, and what economists have known for years. When a massive event like the World Cup comes to town, something called crowding out happens. Soccer fans flood in, but regular tourists, business travelers, and even locals stay away. They avoid the crowds, the congestions, the $1,200 per night hotel rooms, and the general chaos. Globe and Mail economist Victor put it plainly. This is exactly what economists expected, that there would be basically displacement, and that the World Cup tourists would crowd out the regular tourists who would normally be in Toronto and Vancouver. In other words, you gain some visitors and you lose the others, and the net result is often far smaller than the gross numbers suggest. And there's one big problem that rarely gets talked about. FIFA is a Swiss-based organization. The billions in broadcasting rights and licensing fees and sponsorship revenue, most of the most of that flows to FIFA's headquarters in Zurich, not to Canadian businesses or Canadian workers. Host countries foot the bill, but FIFA collects the majority of the profit. The Frontier Center for Public Policy put it bluntly. Every Canadian taxpayer, including those who will never attend the game, is subsidizing an event that primarily benefits FIFA and its corporate sponsors. And the ticket prices themselves, a Category 4 seat, which is the cheapest available seat for the final, was officially priced at 2,030 US dollars. Toronto ranked as the fourth least affordable host city for local residents trying to attend matches in their own city. This was supposed to be a world's game. It became the world's most expensive game. So what did all of this actually mean for you, the regular Canadian who didn't pay $500 for a ticket? If you live in Toronto or Vancouver, this is what it is. Your city got louder, more congested, and significantly more expensive for 6 weeks. Many local residents deliberately avoided downtown. Some small business owners, particularly restaurants not near the official fan zones, actually reported losing their regular customers to the crowds without picking up new ones to replace them. If you paid taxes anywhere in Canada, you contributed to $1.1 billion bill whether you wanted to or not, and whether you followed soccer or not. The federal government alone committed $365 million across multiple funding announcements. If you were trying to travel during the tournament, domestic airfares into Toronto rose 13% on transatlantic routes because of the block booking. Hotel rates in Vancouver averaged $1,228 per night at peak. That's a lot, up dramatically from typical summer rates. If you had plans to visit either city during the tournament for non-World Cup reasons, you likely paid way more, stayed elsewhere, or canceled. And if you ran a small business outside the fan zones, the story is one of frustration. A restaurant owner in Toronto summed it up perfectly. It's hard to tell an increase in sales, but definitely we have a void to fill. Regular customers stayed home, World Cup fans went to designated zones. The middle ground is that ordinary businesses largely went quiet. Now, to be completely fair, it's not all bad news. 9 out of 10 international visitors surveyed at Toronto's fan festival said they would return to Toronto within the next 2 years. That kind of brand exposure for Canada as a tourism destination has real long-term value. It's just very hard to put a dollar figure on it today, and having a dollar figure is very important. Vancouver is already leveraging its World Cup experience to attract major international conferences and cruise businesses. And the 2010 Winter Olympic did generate genuine long-term tourism dividends for British Columbia. It just took years to show up in the data. The federal government also funded 25 community soccer fields across Canada as part of the Legacy program. Small, but tangible. And Canada's men's national team had their best World Cup performance ever, reaching the round of 16. The moment of national pride is genuinely priceless. But a Concordia economist, Mosh Lander, also noted that when the immediate economic returns are harder to prove, government tends to shift the goalpost. They're redefining what the objectives really were. First is an economic windfall. Now it's national pride, long-term tourism, and legacy. Both things can matter, but Canadians deserve to know which promise they were originally sold and what they actually got. So here's the bottom line. Canada spent $1.1 billion of public money to host the World Cup. The promised billions in economic returns didn't materialize in the short term. Restaurants saw 3% bumps, hotels underperformed, and regular Canadians in host cities largely stayed away from their own downtowns. The long-term tourism case is real, but unproven, and structural reality that FIFA captures most of the revenue while host nations absorb most of the cost is something every Canadian city should understand before bidding on the next mega event. Was it worth it? That depends entirely on what you think Canada actually bought. If this video helped you understand what really happened behind the headlines, please subscribe. Share it with someone who kept hearing about World Cup economic boom and wondering where it actually went. Drop a comment and I'll see you in the next one.